2 rounds of photography, and then came back laughing. Then go. Make the Department of Natural Resources smoke this Num village. Suddenly, there was a rush of footsteps. Yan Ming breathes red. Everyone saw the white man. I realized it was training. Hastily puffing chest upright. But the light passed over them. As soft as the invisible. Then smile and say, follow me. It makes people stupid to understand. Then Yan Ming announced, you have passed this contest. Make the AI stare in horror. The photographer said yes. They make the people here like trees. I can't believe the kid could have passed. The bald man asked if he was just a kid. It's like the 7 gods watching. How come he can't seem to stand? He told me not to pass the exam, and the master of knitting laughed at him. It's just a little devil, and I've lost 7. Then he ran to the village with his ass. I'm definitely dreaming. The rest of you are talking. Looking at it like that is a genius. It's a genius. But I'm over 50. You can't even pass the first round. It's a shame. The bald head can only sigh now. I just turned around and asked the source. Think about taking off your clothes. It is not a shame to be proud of the world. Of course, it can be done. Transfer default room scene. He invited the photographer inside. President and Consul Yang are coming. He waited for a moment for permission. He looked around the room. Then look at the round table and ask. This is a SAO meeting room. He nodded and said it could be considered that. It's not really a meeting room. Look at the wall. Everything on the wall is stuff that the great knitting masters can draw. When exchanging, they talk when there's a problem with the knitting process. To give you the best answer. Sometimes the president and the elders will answer. If you know the answer, you will write it. Let's all argue. People use this to improve their skills. But there's more to the unsolved. I was surprised and thought, it's not just passing the exam. Want to borrow the power of the Monastic Training Association? You have to show strength. Obtain the utility of the association. He comes closer to the wall. Think about it, or even Yan Min aesthetic. Watch out, the photographer is very interested in the knowledge of knitting. After taking a quick look back, go to the desk with the pen. I saw that in a hurry to stop. The photographer asked why. He asked if you wanted to answer. The photographer confirmed that yes, maybe not. I mean, of course, I can answer that, of course. But these problems, it's all a problem when it comes to knitting. No practical experience. And yet, the photographer didn't stop writing on it. He writes with a pen as fast as the wind. Yan Ming saw that, assumed that there is no practical experience, and still answer like this. I must have laughed my nose off. He said it was a child. But he still went to see it. Read up according to the scientific theory of snow herbalism. 9 thou and long guo thou can train Ra to be a powerful antidote. But what are the proportions of this herb today? I will answer. His answer is, regardless of the rate of Ra, they can't be trained to make their own. I'm stupid. But if you replace long guo thou with long gi thou, according to the formula of the 9 primrose snow accumulation, if you are a Ba, you can succeed. This makes the enlightenment seem to have enlightened the brain. It's amazing that these 2 drugs are the same. As the medicinal properties of long gi herb are slightly milder, according to the scale that the photographer wrote here. Maybe it really works. He looked back at the photographer now. He's still buzzing. Answer the unanswered questions. Hurry to see. The face was suddenly as bewildered as a fish. Make sure that every question is answered very clearly. Even though I don't know right. But just try to know. They're all great academic discoveries. There are questions that even the president can't answer. I looked at the photographer thinking, maybe the boy's level is better than the president's. He said that photography is the practice of knitting. The Monastic Training Association will enter a 10-year period. Looking at the questions on the wall, the photographer said a green sentence. These sentences are not difficult. I was horrified to think and say that. These are all questions I've been asking for 15 years. There's no solution. At this point, the photographer saw the person coming and laughed soft. Greetings to the president of Inflammation and Deity. Yang Han suddenly laughed and laughed. Good job, I just saw you. All the answers are great. In recent years, love has gone wild. Everyone's focused on the martial arts. The Monastic Training Association was no longer the same as before. No good pharmacy knit. There are also many difficulties in training. Martial arts has gone down a dead end. He said it out loud. I didn't expect to be welcomed by a genius today. I'm glad to see your talent. He's gone beyond the level of master knitting. Yang Han next door saw that. A pat on the back reminded him to calm down. She laughed and asked the photographer, "Do you know our names?" He laughed, of course. As long as you study knitting, you know the names of the two. I have written to you before. What makes you wonder if it's a love letter? I heard that. The photographer laughed. Of course, I'm not young. Is the letter about the application of death lam thou in knitting practice? Listen to this information. Make Yang Xin, along with the neck inflammation, roll eyes. Hurry to ask again. That essay is yours, said the inflammatory SAO. Even I'm not sure. It can be studied in such depth. About an herb. Suddenly, he was afraid to say no. I certainly can't do that. Ask the photographer how old you are this year. The answer is 13 years old. Makes it even more unbelievable for him to ask. You finally learned and studied how to practice knitting. To have such knowledge. His whole body trembled and asked, normal herbs like death lam thou. It can also be discovered. More than 60 different effects. It's a genius, but the photographer denies it. No, it was written by my teacher. It was his idea that I came here. Avoid thinking too much. You have to use this trick. That sounds right. He's just a noble boy. So SAO can get that qualification. There must be a teacher. It's probably a knitting master. He asked me who the teacher was. We want to see him. But the photographer laughed softly and refused to say, I'm sorry, master, I don't like to be disturbed. There is no master to meet. Yang Han is also silent. Observe his attitude. Secretly exclaimed, I can't read any signs of lying. This kid is so cool. She nodded and said, if the master didn't want to be present, I hope to have a chance to meet you later. I don't know what the real level of photography is. But with this knowledge, it's overtaken me. You can also practice knitting directly. This will please his master. And thinking about it, he put out his hand and said, go get a certificate of advanced master knitting. And medals and clothes. Yang Han hurriedly followed. Smiling softly exclaimed, I was 13 years old when I learned to knit. The photographer spoke up, other than this, I would like to negotiate something with the master. That's a surprising inflammation in the neck. I think it must be what the teacher said. Please, brother, just talk. Get straight to the point. Where I have a method for making 5 strains of crochet. It's a knitting sole. Fisherman knit me soul knit. Dean chain, I can Dan and 9 Dan transmission. Here the knit. This class leading drug causes neck tremor. Who can't seem to stand. I quickly asked the names of those drugs. Then the photographer laughed and confirmed that he was not wrong. Compared to the soul of Dan and the soul of knitting today. Of Quang Wei Kai City. Different types and different ranks of knitting soul bomb. Stop the soul. I am the knitting soul of the imperial period. The effectiveness of the drug is several hundred times higher. He added that there is also a chain. Body knit for body training for martial artist. And 9 switch knitting. Use it in case of injuries. Of course, I know these kinds of things. But the master actually has a way of mixing them. The method of making these medicines was soon. 7 transmission photographer began to complain without afraid of mouth. Of course, there is. My master had to go through the Holy Spirit. 6 deep learning. How many years to Quang Wei Kai City? But he doesn't like to show up. So it's all through me. That's right. These 5 types of knitting. Learning to knit. You can already practice the intermediate soul. Stop soul knitting. You need to practice high-level knitting. My soul Dan and Dean chain. I am Dan. You need to practice knitting. And 9 knitting changes need to practice high-class master knitting. Ask the teacher again. It's only been here for years. Should think. In addition to us, other cities are still human SAO. Training monks like this. If you live in Quang Wei Kai City, this is a gold mine. The photographer said the master wanted to introduce these methods of preservation. Donate to the association. But this weakness made the Y and Min on one side tremble as well. Nervously asked, but why? He continued. If you wear clothes, you're getting older. But the love story of the spirit was not born. Quang Wei Kai City outside threatened by animals. 3 more snow maple. The legend is sleeping deep in the Holy Father Sun Vang. If there are these 5 types of knitting, the power of humanity will be increased. The city will have a different face. Master wanted to continue his research on knitting. But we need funding. The capital is quite large, so these combination methods. You can't just give it away. Give me 3 fingers. Later, when the Master Knitting Association preserved. Master, I want to have 3 parts of the prophet. I don't know the president. The 2 old men looked at each other. But the photographer said not to worry. According to this calculation, the more money sold. The Monastic Training Association got the money. The profit is also greater. Stop the normal soul. Profits are also high. You don't have to worry about the sales of the pharmacy. It seems to have been 7. But the neck is inflamed. No, I didn't mean that. God wants half of us. The photographer laughed and said it wasn't necessary. Master said, you only need 3 parts to be approved by the president. You can take some money to support learning for the poor. Inflamed neck as if sprayed stiff for a few seconds and then speak up. The master is a quiet man. We will work for the common children. Learning to knit is also a way of advertising for the association. What about trade? The teacher can send someone to check the supervision. If anything is not good, you can directly adjust it. The photographer laughed. These things, please leave it to the president and Yang Deacon. I believe you too are visionary. Tuber's inflammation confirmed, of course. Thinking with determination. Transaction with the master knitting practice. We have to do our best. He's got even better knitting in his hand. The photographer took the papers and said, here's a blend of 5 types of knitting. Please take a look. Neck inflammation took it, but bewildered. I looked at the ingredients in surprise. I can't believe they're all normal herbs. It's like death. See, it needs to be replenished. To think in my heart that these methods of dispensing. Lake awake elder. I dare not despise this position anymore. A moment later, Yang Han immediately breathed smoke to bring the goods. She spoke up and said, Yang Deacon is back. If anything happens later, please tell her. She'll arrange everything you need. If we are not finished, Yang Han is coming. Give something to the photographer. This school. It may be a little too big for you to wear, even though it is the smallest. I'll bring it to you when the new shirt is done. I don't know where you live. He thought to say, I took a martial arts beginner's class at the Holy Lan Academy. You can come to school and find me later. That makes Yang Han stupid. When you're so paranoid. Yang Han asked again the beginner martial arts class. Why is it so hard to accept talented people? If you want to go to genius class, I could have been there myself. To tell the principal. But he shook his head and laughed. Thank you for paying attention is not necessary. He's in his suit, saying if there's nothing else. I'm out. You're still waiting for me. See you again, the president. To take the clothes that he was complaining about. I think the clothes are a bit big. She told Yang to send him off. So Yang Han took him away. Neck inflammation, hidden how to handle medicine in your hand. And look up at the wall with the Kier elves. He spoke up. Knitting Training Association, not even Kwang Wei Kai is afraid that. It's the beginning of a new era. Then he hurriedly ordered Yan Ming. I'm ready to practice knitting. Yang Deacon will go to buy herbs. You help me to gather all the monks' training. Middle school students back to me. Yan Ming immediately took orders. Monk Training Association has begun to practice knitting on a large scale. Keep the soul and stop the soul. The first day was officially sold. Has collected 6 billion in DTO love. There are 3 types of medicine left. He is the owner himself, and he wears it. Visited the Monastic Training Association. 1 month later, the final exam is coming soon. Everyone in the class is messing around. The Vietnamese judge alone sits. Hold the white bottle in your hand. The man sitting on the table saw that and called the judge. The old man is stopping the soul. I can't believe I got this. If you use it, maybe you'll reach the level of 2-star bronze. He is cold-hearted. The fellow laughing said, the gang of idiots hide in the library all day long. Dare not go to school. Surely not a single pure copper bar. Then wait and quit school. Ha! Tham Viet immediately thought that was natural. Then he remembered the scene before. When Nie Li defeated the original 3-star bronze. Unless he can practice from 5 points. Soul power up to 100 within 2 months. Thinking of this, he felt cold. Even if he stays, it's okay. Because of the story of the red face of the Min Van epidemic, then the family was oppressed. The Silver family is a family in every way. Now Alchemist Association sold out a large quantity of soul-nourishing pills and soul condensation. Even have my soul pill. The Silver family, you pay full price. No elixir, no money. You are nothing. But on the side of Nie Li at this time, Duong Han brought a pile of money to Cho Nip Lai. This is the amount of this order. Besides, there is also my soul Dan and my body Deem. He accepted the courtesy and said he had troubled you. The 6 other guys next to her saw a beautiful woman and started to act rashly. Compliment her beautiful. Du Trach broke out in a cold sweat. Be careful what you say. Do you know who she is? But was immediately told by Duong Han, you also speak carefully. Causing the students nearby to start gossiping. After the year-end test, new students will be reassigned to new classes. Distance between students in the same class also stretched. From now on, all students are trying to practice. Before test. The next morning, 6 drifting listlessly. When I can't sleep all night because of worry. Calmly pointed to the people. Practice hard. It's just a test. Need middle of the night. The sound of silence is easily misunderstood like this. No. Nie Li wrapped his hand around and said it was just a check. The most panicked person is you, right? Haha. Test day has arrived. Nie Li led his teammates and said, let's go. The drums beat loudly in the hall. The students below were happily whispering and running around. Grasshopper. Meanwhile, Vice President Deep Thang was sitting with his chin in his hands, said he didn't know these freshmen. How many kids get into the genius class? So exciting. But the bet between Tham 2 and that student is what makes us excited. Haha. Quickly all the students gathered there. Talking accompanied by drumming sounds. Like a festival. Nie Li came to the place, put his hands on his hips and said, there are so many people away. I realized that the upperclassmen also came to watch the match. 6 other side also looked around. As soon as he saw an acquaintance, he waved his hand vigorously. Makes Nie Li also wonder and confused, then turned back to look at Theo. It turns out that they are the 2 beauties to Van and Ngang Ni. They go to say hello, ask the photographer, are you here? He also happily greeted back. Make the crowd around jealous. When Nie Li got to talk to their 2 goddesses again. Cursed the person 2 milk bottles. No one is really hateful. Ziyun suddenly said everyone talk. I have something to say that makes Nie Li very disappointed. The fisherman next to him asked, yes, Nie Li. I heard people in the family talking. Business of the silver family. Face the oppression of the divine family. Hearing that, Nie Li asked about business with a gloomy face. Nothing else. Muang Ni worriedly nodded, then Nie Li coolly replied, it's just a matter of money, it's not a problem. Hearing that made Cho Ngang Ni jump in surprise. Think, maybe there is a way. Suddenly, someone appeared. Make the crowd buzz. Ngang Ni also glanced over, then suddenly turned pale. She exclaimed in surprise. He and Tham Viet pulled the crowd to go forward aggressively. Look at the judge's eyes. Make Cho stop secretly, remembering Ra. Yes, I can transform soul power. No need to pay attention to the faces of the gods. The world is only when you and Nie Li are together. Thinking of this, she turned around and was about to leave. Don't want to cause more trouble for Nie Li. Then suddenly, a hand gently pulled back. Nie Li asked where Ngang Ni was going. Made Cho Ngang Ni stunned. 2 people holding hands, making the crowd look. Taurus worriedly whispered, let me go. We are in trouble. But Nie Li replied no. Anyway, they always find me to cause trouble. Not star. Before I finished speaking, suddenly, the judge swung his spear and rushed forward. In a flash, he growled and ordered her to take her hands off him. As soon as the judge's headshot approached. Then suddenly, the photographer took off his hand. Quickly pulled Ngang Ni to avoid. Both dodged. Plus photography. Give him a blow to the chest. To make the dumb crowd talk. The judge on one side must also open his mouth. Amazed by this blow. The judge was so stuck that he fell off the back. He was stunned. Hurry up with your feet so you don't fall down. He glanced at the photographer and was cold. He's got a very provocative eye. To make the judge crazy blood spit, asked. You are the SAO photographer. He's thinking in his head. Let the judges focus all their attention on you. It's better for them to stop thinking. And he put his hand on her shoulder. Then pull hard to stop. The child pressed close to himself and said loudly, "It is not wrong who you are." To stop the child being embarrassed to ask the photographer. And the crowd was screaming furiously. With this provocation, makes the dog's blood rush to the brain. He pointed to his voice. "Listen, I am the judge. He is the fiancé of the family. Let go of your hand." But the photographer calmly said her fiancé Sao, who admitted it, turned to ask stop. "He's your fiancé." And then he yelled, "Look, it's not." Then point your hand at the judge. "Who the hell are you to eat a swan? Wake up and ask me to marry you. Stop thinking like a yellow deer." "I haven't said anything yet." The people around me screamed frantically. The judge spoke up seriously. "What am I, let me say for myself." Now the eyes of stopping children straight to the appellate, then bluntly declared, "He's not my fiancé. I've never admitted this." "Who are you?" "I understand very well. Time ago, the girls in school were humiliated. You think if you find someone else to blame, no one knows why. Listen to these words. It makes everyone talk." The judge rolled his eyes in amazement and laughed. "Very well stopped. You tell yourself don't regret it. It's just a small family medicine dragon. They also want to do the SAO." I suddenly stopped hearing these words. Make dark face. Think in your heart, God, what did I say? Certain, the gods of the world will avenge their families. The other students started messing around. Use force to bully others. What a shame that the gods of the world. That's the funnel. Another name-crossed Tay said, "No wonder I never saw her contact him before." That's what Ra is. Looking at the photographer is good. He even spoke against the gods. Save the baby now. The judge glared at them. To make AI shrink, the silent sheet. At this point, he pulled his hand away from the man. Then go ahead and say, "If you are good, come up here. There's nothing good about raping a girl. How are you going to play? I accept all the fish to stop. This has nothing to do with him. It's my own opinion. I would rather die than marry you." The judge here laughed. "It's not your turn to decide," he said. The judge, "I will ask you to enter the temple. If we get through it, even if it's the gods of the world, there's nothing you can do for me." The judge laughed and mocked the heavens and the holy scene. Sao haha. It's a place where only geniuses under the age of 15 just got in. Don't you think you're a genius? More in the history of Quang Wei Kai City. You can pass the test. Even in the middle, there are only 3 people. You should think about how to get into it. It was more than before. I asked her why she said so much. Nie Li will definitely pass the test there. You just wait. Get out of here, said the devil. Do you know if it's not in the light? Wei Kai Than, are you soon gone? He glared at his father's voice. But Mr. Li calmly asked. Make him mad. I think he's in school now. I can't do anything. He thought, that's right, photographer. Do you have the guts to attend the Genius Fair? Organized by the gods of our world. At that time I will invite your heavenly family. I can see that my face is full of confusion. The judge continued. You and I fight in the castle based on ability. Whoever loses, loses. No one intervenes. The photographer asked again. Hearing this makes people around upset. You scum, who agrees? Some say the judge is 17. He soon reached the white-silver level. It's different than wanting to take a life. The judge saw that and asked why. How are you? Nie Li behind the photographer. I advised the photographer not to, but he smiled softly and assured me. I laughed and told you to dare to fight. Why can't we accept it? This acceptance by the photographer, it makes people scream. I have accepted it. The judge gritted his teeth and said you agreed. Don't swallow your words. The genius of the gods of the world. I'm waiting for you there. When he finished, he turned and left. It makes the judge stupid to say. Wait for the photographer. They yelled at everyone around them what to look at. After the thugs are gone, then everyone is back in the same happy atmosphere. A long time later, Yi Tu Van has just arrived. She asked the photographer, I heard you accepted the judge's challenge. The photographer laughed softly. Don't worry. It makes people stop screaming and tell them to worry. It's been around for a long time. At least now I have to get two. Are you sure? The photographer calmly asked to see why. The dead face said, You definitely accepted for stopping. You seem to be very honest with me. Be nice to her, or I won't forgive you. The guard hurried to the defense, not without intense temperament. I just can't accept it. The story of an honest man stopped falling into his hands. So help him out. Even if I turn you back, it is no better. You don't have to explain it to me. To make the photographer stiff-throated, who saw the rolling attitude.